I also just want to again recognize and honor the sex worker community.
I want to thank the sex worker community.
Wow, 3 weeks ago it was a bunch of hoes, and now it's a community.
Bill Maher is back in the spotlight, this time calling out Hollywood's growing obsession with trendy slogans and hollow displays of virtue.
My question is, if it's such an important liberal cause, why didn't you do it 10 years ago? Or 20? Or in 1975? Maybe I should be copying an attitude with you.
In a scorching episode of Real Time, Bill Maher unleashed a no-holds-barred takedown of Hollywood's addiction to radical progressive trends. From empty slogans to performative wokeness, Maher exposed the industry's latest identity-driven distractions. So what exactly is the new wave sweeping through Tinseltown, and how brutal was Maher's takedown? Strap in, we're breaking it all down.
Gotta give me more than a week to get used to a new word, or phrase, or name for what we call something. We did this with homeless until it was unhoused. We did this with illegal alien until it was undocumented migrant.
Maher kicked things off by calling out Hollywood's habit of slapping new labels on everyday words, all in the name of sounding more progressive. But here's the kicker. The core meaning stays the same. It's a glossy rebrand with zero real change. Style over substance, plain and simple. But enough about wordplay. Let's dive into the real fireworks. Cue the clip.
Now we're doing it with prostitute. I don't know if you saw the Academy Awards this year, but I'm just going to say it. Whores are having a moment.
The newest word to undergo a Hollywood facelift? Prostitute. Now commonly swapped out for the more polished sex worker. Touted as a more respectful term, the industry has embraced it without hesitation. But Maher isn't fooled. To him, it's yet another cosmetic change that dodges deeper issues, a textbook case of language overaction. And as always, he's armed with sharp wit and unfiltered commentary. Let's roll a few Hollywood clips that sparked the debate.
So just want to again recognize and honor the sex worker community.
I want to thank the sex worker community.
That's how fast the language game moves. No debate, no dialogue. One day, it's prostitute. The next, it's sex worker. And just like that, the old terms vanish. Question the switch, and you risk being branded insensitive. But let's be clear, relabeling something doesn't rewrite the truth behind it. It's symbolic change masquerading as progress. Fortunately, Bill Maher isn't one to play along. His critique, unfiltered, unapologetic, and right on target.
Because it's kind of funny how it's only been a few weeks and I already know people who, if you use the word prostitute, they will glare at you like you forgot a reusable bag at Whole Foods.
And that's the heart of the problem. Words like streetwalkers are now labeled offensive, even when describing people who willingly chose that path. But instead of tackling the root issues, many would rather just tinker with terminology. It's all about appearances, not impact. This shallow form of compassion sidesteps the real struggles entirely, and Bill Maher isn't letting it slide. With his trademark clarity, he's exposing the gap between feel-good language and real-world solutions.
The question is, if it's such an important liberal cause, why didn't you do it 10 years ago? Or 20? Or in 1975? Maybe I should be copying an attitude with you.
Bill Maher delivers a razor-sharp question, the kind that slices straight to the core. Why didn't we call it sex work 10 or 15 years ago? What really changed? The job itself, or just our collective sensitivity? It's the perfect setup, and Maher hits the punchline with surgical force. The answer doesn't just challenge the narrative, it lands like a gut punch, leaving the room in dead silence.
2 years ago, the New York Post ran a story about a paramedic who couldn't make ends meet, and so started an OnlyFans to pay her bills, and then got publicly shamed for it, and Congressman Ocasio-Cortez tweeted in her defense, "Sex work is work." Well, first of all, sex shouldn't be work at all.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has become a fixture in progressive politics, always camera-ready and packed with sound bites. From pushing open-border narratives to denouncing capitalism while selling her own branded merchandise, her activism often feels more performative than practical. Critics say it's optics over outcomes, spotlight over substance. And while her supporters applaud the spectacle, a growing number of Americans are left asking, when will style finally give way to meaningful change?
Moreover, saying sex work is work, it's kind of like saying slavery is work. Yes, strictly speaking, but is that really the message we want to be sending? A few weeks ago, I did a new rule here where I mentioned all the actresses, 21 in all, who have been nominated for an Oscar, and many of whom have won, for playing a sex worker. And tonight, I'd like to apologize to the other 20 who were nominated, who I didn't even have time to put on the list. Really, I swear to God, there's 20 more hooker portrayers who were nominated, and some other big star hooker portrayers who didn't even get a nomination. Please, wouldn't you take a moment to honor them all?
Bill Maher didn't pull any punches when tackling the term sex worker. In classic unfiltered fashion, he cut through the polished phrasing to expose a grimmer reality. Many involved in prostitution aren't empowered professionals. They're victims of poverty, abuse, or coercion. Maher's message was clear. Changing the label doesn't change the suffering. In fact, dressing it up in softer language only helps conceal the exploitation instead of confronting it.
Leads us to this question: why? Why so many hookers? You know, myths and dreams, but also movies, tell us what's really going on in our minds. Why this? If half of all male stars in Hollywood had at one point played a porch pirate or a used car salesman or a three-card money dealer or a lobbyist, something really sketchy, would we not wonder about that? What does it mean? Does it mean that we're still locked into the Madonna whore complex? It would seem so, since there's 1,000 movies about whores and Madonna has never made a good one.
Maher delivers a cutting insight. Why does Hollywood keep boxing women into two extremes, either untouchable saints or shattered souls? And why do actresses so often get praised only when portraying trauma or exploitation? Is it daring storytelling, or does it reveal something darker about how the industry sees women? Maher argues it's not empowerment, it's suffering packaged as progress. What he calls out is performative feminism. Loud, flashy, but ultimately empty.
Honora is a good one. It's a great movie. So is Sean Baker's other movie about a sex worker, Tangerine, and his other movie about a sex worker, Red Rocket, and his other movie about a sex worker, Starlet, and his other movie about a sex worker, The Florida Project. Look, I think Sean is a huge talent, but he does think about whores a lot.
Spot the pattern. Maher shines a light on a disturbing trend. Hollywood's male directors have a curious obsession with prostitution stories, often romanticizing them instead of revealing the grim truth. Wrapped in glossy cinematography and award-bait performances, these films blur the line between awareness and fetishized fantasy. Rather than confronting injustice, they risk commodifying pain for artistic clout. Maher exposes the double standard, filmmakers preaching progress while cashing in on the very struggles they pretend to condemn.
Honestly, I think whore was a better term, and here's why. You can get so caught up in the virtue signaling that you actually do harm to the cause, and using sex worker makes it sound too benign, like it's a temp job at a call center being done by a woman in a cubicle with a cactus on her desk.
Bill Maher delivers another blunt truth, arguing that rebranding prostitute as sex worker might actually do more harm than good. While the term sounds more dignified, he warns it risks sanitizing a harsh, often tragic reality and presenting it as just another career path. The danger? It may dull the drive for real change. Instead of pushing for escape routes and opportunities, the language shift could make exploitation seem acceptable. Maher takes aim at what he sees as well-intentioned wording that ultimately masks the deeper crisis.
It's not that, and it's not usually the woman's choice to do it. The language may have changed, but the job hasn't. There's a real piece of garbage out there these days named Andrew Tate. And he's the other guy in the news connected to sex workers. Except here's the little difference. He's for exploiting them. And he brags about pimping out, beating, and trafficking and tricking vulnerable women. And while there are Republicans who have come out and said that embracing this piece of shit is a bridge too far, most have not.
The double standards are impossible to miss. Time and again, instead of driving real change, parts of the left seem more invested in rebranding problems with fresh terminology, tweaking language while ignoring the root issues. Whether it's homelessness, immigration, or exploitation, the solutions offered are often symbolic gestures, not practical fixes. Bill Maher cuts through the noise and exposes the hollow empathy behind the buzzwords. Because at the end of the day, changing the label doesn't change the reality. If you found this breakdown thought-provoking, be sure to like and subscribe. There's plenty more on the way. Thanks for tuning in.